Good morning and namaste everyone. Vanakkam from Singara, Chennai. It's a lovely sunny Saturday here in Chennai and I'm here feeling really bright and enthusiastic, not just because of the weather here today or because it's day 3 of a spectacular conclave ICF India 2021 conclave is turning out to be, but there are 2 more reasons. I am in the company of 2 amazing women leaders here, and I can't wait to get started. And we are going to explore a topic which I think is of value for any organization. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about the value of coaching in organizations today. A topic quite close to the hearts of many of us sitting here. Before I get into the introductions of our speakers, I would like to introduce the topic a little bit. Many times you would be left wondering, coaches and leaders alike, whenever there is a conversation on coaching, as to what's the real value of coaching to an organization, its culture, and of course, delivering value to the business. We will explore some of these questions in this power talk by 2 business leaders from 2 of the most respected organizations in the world, Microsoft and Google, that have both embraced coaching in a wonderful, holistic way. We will also learn about how these 2 leaders have also embraced it in their own leadership journey within the organizational context. So, ladies and gentlemen, I first would like to introduce Madhuri Dogirala, who is our first speaker for the day. Madhuri has 23 plus years of technology industry experience across the globe, with a strong experience in managing, building, and delivering end-user products and services, cloud platform solutions, and ads media service that serve millions of customers, resulting in high revenues for the organization while staying on the leading edge of the technology landscape. Madhuri describes herself as an engineer by profession, a singer by passion, a globetrotter by interest, and a social volunteer by choice. Wow, such a beautiful combination. Madhuri has been with Google for 5 years now, and prior to that, surprise, she was the senior director of engineering at Microsoft, where she spent 12 years in Seattle, USA, and Hyderabad, India. Prior to that, she worked at Broadband Wireless Setup and Services Organization for 6 years, primarily in Europe, India, and North America. Madhuri is a strategic thinker, highly results-driven, passionate mentor who values inclusiveness and diversity and deeply believes in aligning teams around common mission and goals to deliver high impact. Built and led strong, high-performing and talented teams, created an environment to empower and motivate team members to bring their best and achieve maximum potential is Madhuri's secret recipe of success. On the personal front, she is married to Satya, who's an engineering director in Salesforce Hyderabad. They have 11-year-old twins, a boy and a girl, Nirvan and Moksha. As a family, they thoroughly enjoy traveling across the world. Madhuri, over to you to take us through your lovely and inspiring presentation.
Thank you, Vijay, for that very, very kind intro. Good morning, everyone. It's such an honor and privilege to be part of this session and specifically sharing my thoughts, both my personal journey and my professional journey of the value of coaching in Google. I have a few slides today, but the intent today is more to have an engaging dialogue with you. So I'll keep my slides to the minimum, but make sure that we have a very engaging conversation. You've heard enough in probably the entire conclave since the last few days about why coaching is important. So I probably don't need to reiterate that at all. But let me start with Bill Gates' quote and a personal anecdote of mine. Bill Gates said, "Everybody needs a coach. It doesn't matter whether you're a basketball player or a tennis player or a gymnast. We all need people who give us feedback, and that's how we improve. But just like athletes, coaching is the best way to ensure we can perform at a high level. And that is true for people like us, for lawyer, musician, doctor, anybody you could name off. And that's my journey a little bit too. One anecdote is very, very close to my heart. This was 10 years ago. I was in a leadership coaching session with a few directors around me. And probably I was in a very first level manager at that point of time. And the coach asked, how many of you want to be the CEOs in the next 10 years? 80% of the people in the room have not raised their hand. And then the coach came and spoke to me and a few others, but the conversation with me struck through my entire life. He said, the question is, do you want to be a CEO? We are not asking, will you be a CEO in the next 10 years? So even if you're not raising a hand to want to be, then that's your limiting beliefs, right? You're putting a ceiling for yourself. And that's when I realized that your dreams have to be skyrocketing. You should always aim for the sky. Of course, you want to probably be there. And then how do you make it happen is the path. Don't worry about the path. And then that's when it really stuck to me. Since then, I've never hesitated. If somebody says, do you want to be a CXO? I will always raise my hand. And the reason is why, let me tell you the secret sauce of why I raise my hand today, because of the coaches. I've received immense coaching throughout my career journey from my leaders, from my peers, from executive coaches, and I so believe in the power of coaching, which is why I'm very passionate about this topic. I think 20 minutes is no justice to this, but I'll ensure that we talk about certain key aspects of coaching and specifically why it is complex and what organizations are doing and what Google is doing. So there are a lot of organizations who are really trying to establish and foster a culture of coaching. And this becomes more and more complex as the organizations become complex. In Google, we are approaching this with a notion of how do we build a coaching culture amidst our ever changing business and ever growing employee population. But the bottom line is it is not easy, but it is very critical and it requires a nimble and multifaceted approach. So we believe that the critical component to developing, by the way, it's not important to just develop a culture. You have to sustain a culture of coaching. That's through development of a coaching mindset and applying coaching skills regularly. But what does that mean on the ground? So we believe four things. When it comes to learning and coaching at Google, there are some things we know to be true. We call these truths our learning beliefs. And this is how we design and deliver learning to Googlers now and even in the future. First thing is learning and coaching is a process. Overnight, nobody becomes an expert. And that's why the role of a manager and a leader and coaches, like many of us, becomes very critical. Second, it happens in real life. You can't tell them a theory or give them a document and a slide deck and say, hey, here's how you become great and here's how you excel in your life. It's you have to show them. Like Vijay and we were talking early on, there are a lot of frameworks out there, but our job as managers, leaders, and coaches is to make it real for them. Third is it is personal. What works for me may not work for you. So we have to really make it personal, the learning and the whole entire coaching journey. Lastly, I believe learning is social. I mean, there are many things I've learned throughout my career, but majority of them happened in a social setup. We were either in a group coaching or we were in a peer coaching. It's a lot more fun and enjoyable. And I'll tell you why. Because when you go to many coaching sessions, both as a coach or a coachee, many a times you're hesitating, is this only my problem or do others also deal with it? And then suddenly in a social setup, 10 other people are saying, I have a very similar thing. And that's when you feel, first of all, you're not alone in this journey. There are so many other people who are going through your own journey. And that's why it's important that the social setup makes it much easier. So no one questions the importance of a very strong, positive organizational culture. So I believe that a coaching culture is a part of it. If you want to build a culture where your employees thrive, that means coaching has to be an integral part because a coaching culture helps people at all levels. There are many things, right? Like if you're a small business, medium business, enterprise, or a successful company, There are a few things which are important for every company, right? One is you want to make profit. You are in the business of revenue. You want to create impact for your customers. You want to make your customers successful. You want to effectively run your organizations. But how do all of these happen? The only reason all of these happen is because of our people. The people are the biggest asset for any company. And that is where I think coaching culture and a strong organizational culture makes it important. Like we can have excellent vision and bold goals, but the way it will happen is when you set up this coaching culture. And I've personally seen in all the organizations I've worked that there are many benefits of it. I think the first thing being the employees perform better. We achieve bigger and bold goals together. It creates very strong bonds together. It establishes open communication. Most importantly, it increases employee engagement. That is why this coaching culture is not, by the way, beneficial for the individuals or coaches or managers or leaders, but for organizations to thrive and succeed, for our customers to be happy as well. Coaching makes a very important part of the organization. But why is it complex and why is it hard? Now, one reason coaching is so powerful is it enables you to deal with the unknown. The workplace today is so dynamic. It's characterized by turnover and volatile market forces. There's volatility everywhere. We are all in the VUCA world, right? Which is we are volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And for us to deal through the VUCA world, not everybody has everything handy to deal through this. But the beauty of coaching is you don't need to do everything to be effective. By the way, even as a leader, I don't have answers to everything. But because I have coaches and I have amazing leaders around me, that is what enables you to deal. And I think somebody is mentioning this in the chat as well. It enables you to deal with the world. Absolutely, any unknown around you, you're not afraid of dealing with the unknown. Now, how do we make all of this happen? I think there are three things we focus in Google. One is looking inward, second is looking outward, third is looking forward. All these three are very, very important for us to expand your perspectives. A lot, let's take one example of one of you is coaching somebody as a coach or a leader. We are coaching somebody on how to increase the revenue or how to improve our customer satisfaction or how to be an effective communicator. A lot of times uh, there's no value in externalizing the problem, nor everything internalizing as well, which is why I think we anchor everybody in any coaching program or even in one-on-one coaching is to expand your perspectives. Here are a few things for you to look inward. Here are a few things for you to look outward. There are a lot of outside in things we can learn. And here are the things for you to look forward. The reason to look forward is a lot of times we as coaches, we coach people not to be ready just for the current. We coach people to be ready for the future. And that starts with a journey. That's why it starts with inward, outward, and make them future ready. And I want to share with you, there are many aspects of things we do at Google for coaching, but I want to talk about the four important things which are very close to my heart at Google. The number one thing is trainings. Every individual, by the way, can be a coach irrespective of whether you're a manager or a leader. So we have very specific trainings where we talk about how do you coach for career development, and honestly that's an expectation from senior individual contributors as well. Second, we have designed very specific coaching programs for our managers, how to be an effective coach. Last, and one of my most favorite, is we have a Google School of Leaders which specifically designs leadership coaching programs. And most of these trainings, by the way, are very experiential trainings as well. The second thing is executive coaching. We have very specific one-on-one coaching, which we offer to several of our senior leaders, managers, and individual contributors. Because like I said, learning is personal, learning is social. You do a lot of social learning through these group coachings and trainings, but you gain a lot through your one-on-one executive coachings as well. The next two are very, very specific and something which has made, by the way, a huge difference in my own journey as well. One is called G2G coaching. G2G is Googler to Googler coaching. So this is a very voluntary run effort, but we have thousands of Googlers who do it. If a Googler is good at something, they start there, and we have a platform for this where every Googler can offer what they know. Because in Google, we use this phrase, lift yourself and lift others around you. It's important in a organization, specifically with a strong culture and coaching of culture. It's not enough if you succeed. You need to lift everybody around you. That is where all our Googlers are very passionate. You see majority of the Googlers being a G2G coaches as well. Lastly, I think in Google, we always say, bring your whole self to work. Like when Vijay gave my introduction, for me, my whole self is being an engineer, which is think and act like an engineer. But I love singing, I love philanthropy, I love social service, I love traveling. But how do you bring all aspects to work when you come to work and you're expected to show up at a certain way? So we have some amazing coaching trainings platforms where we are also supported to learn about what does wellness mean to you. How do you actually bring your whole self to work? Because we want every employee to come to work and not survive at work. We want every employee to thrive at work. So we have some very specific programs so that we kindle not just the minds but heart and souls of our Googlers too. That is where I think we focus a lot on ensuring that we have enough programs for well-being and support as well. Lastly, I thought I'd share some of my own personal stories, and there are many stories, but I'll leave you with two. But before that, I'll tell you the three phrases which taught me a lot. And if there are people in this room, I think it will help you as well. First thing is, it takes a village to be successful. Specifically, for someone like me, a woman of color who was born, raised in a very orthodox South Indian family where there are no role models to be like a senior leader in big organizations and travel around the world, it really took a village. I'm whatever I am today, I attribute who I am, my success to all the coaches. When I say coaches, even my managers, leaders have been my coaches, and specific leadership management and peer coaches as well. So if Madhuri is successful today, it takes a village as well. Second is, it's a marathon. There are days I felt I wanted to improve on one particular thing and I wanted to do overnight. Literally, in like 1 week, I wanted to make a difference. And that's where both the coaching sessions and the organizations and individual coaches made me realize that, Madhuri, this is a marathon, this is not a sprint as well. So if we are coaches, I expect all of us to instill the sense of confidence in the people we are coaching, that don't sprint. This is a marathon. Let's go through one phase at a time, because coaching is a process. And through the process, you will absolutely learn as well. Third is, I have no fear of exploring the unknown today. I happily explore the unknown. I always have this now attitude of bring the complexity, bring it on, I will deal with it, but I'm not born like this. I gathered that courage to explore the unknown because of amazing contribution from all the coaching conversations. Many of my light bulb moments, by the way, happened in some of these coaching sessions or experiential trainings I've attended. I'll tell you two such light bulb moments. There are probably multiple of them. I think one is about multitasking versus deep work. As a mom of twins and with multiple passions and things at work as well, there are many a days I used to multitask. I think when I was there in the one of these, it was called Sustaining High Performance Coaching for Leaders. The professor from Berkeley explained us about how does the mind work when you're working on 10 tasks, but when you're instead of one task at a time. As simple as she said, you should all stare at stars for 10 minutes a day. I think sometimes those are light bulb moments for me, that look, do deep work for 10 minutes rather than in half an hour do 10 different things. And my productivity improved significantly in all aspects, not just in career as well. Similarly, the second one was about how do you bring balanced leadership. For example, as a woman, there are certain traits I bring, but also as a leader, there are a certain traits I bring. How do you bring the best of the both rather than leaving something behind? Because if I leave something behind, I may be happy as a leader but unhappy as a woman, or vice versa as well. There are many such moments, but what I encourage as coaches and organizations is Don't underestimate the power of these micro moments we create in during one-on-one coachings or these coaching conversations. Absolutely, the book Deep Work is probably one of the greatest books, I think, which alludes to a lot of it. Lastly, let me end with a story. I have always believed that, I used to believe, and this was a myth in my mind, that only extraordinary people do extraordinary things. And I have always believed that I am an ordinary girl, so maybe I will not be able to do extraordinary things. But thanks to the power of coaching in the organizations, power of coaches, today I've changed my myth. I believe now ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Ordinary people can do ordinary things in an extraordinary way. So, if you want extraordinary things to happen, we absolutely have to embrace the power of coaching in our organizations. I have shared a few, you'll hear a few more from Irina, who's our next speaker as well. There are a lot of techniques and tactics to make the coaching an integral part of our culture. And to summarize what I said at the beginning, if we are doing that, we are improving our employees' happiness, our employees' performance, our organization's performance, and you're running organizations which are thriving. At the end of the day, we are successful as coaches, as an organizational leaders, when people get up in the morning and jump out of their bed and chair to come to work. That's the kind of organizations we create. And people, at any day, nobody is perfect, right? People have a journey. It is our job to make them that, look, in your journey, we are together with you. Nobody is perfect, nobody is extraordinary on day one, but we will make everybody extraordinary in this process. And I think that is the power of coaching. And with that, I think I give it back to Viji for our next speaker, and I look forward to hearing and engaging with you in the Q&A. Viji, I think you're on mute.
So I'm not learning from my experience. I will try. Okay. I keep going on to mute. I was just saying I was at the edge of my seat. Okay. I mean, really, I just want to say two things. And if I can use hashtags, okay, I love doing this. I want to say be like Google. Not saying that don't be like Microsoft. I'm probably going to say that again when Irina speaks. But I also want to say, Madhuri, ambassador for ICF. Right. So I think you've kind of evangelized coaching, put it all together. And so if there is an honorary position, we will invite you for that, Madhuri. Thank you so much. Amazing. So let me move on to Irina, our other very, very wonderful leader. And, I can't wait to hear from her, but you must allow me time to do her, read through her phenomenal bio here. Irina Ghosh is the Executive Director for Microsoft's Cloud Solutions in India. She is responsible for empowering cloud adoption and digital transformation by engaging with customers and partners to envision and architect their digital growth strategy. She leads a team of cloud specialists and technical evangelists with diverse capabilities across Microsoft's 5 solution areas. Additionally, Irina also heads the India Microsoft Technology Center, an experience center that provides customers access to innovative technologies and world-class expertise. She is a Microsoft veteran for nearly 2 decades and has held a variety of strategy and sales leadership roles across the enterprise and education segments, focusing on business management, ops, partnerships, innovations, and new business initiatives. In her most recent stints, she has led the specialist teams for both Azure and Microsoft 365. Irina is an electrical engineer from IIT BHU and an MBA from XLRI. A proponent of women in business and technology, she is a recipient of the Inspirational Women's Award at Microsoft. Besides being a marathon runner and a music lover, she is a strong champion of diversity and inclusion. She is the foundation of My Little Bit, a philanthropic organization focusing on education and employment for underprivileged girls. She's also actively engaged with startups with Microsoft for startups and as a trustee in Sonder Connect, a foundation for women entrepreneurs. I am just feeling so energized reading out your bio itself, Irina. Over to you for your talk.
Thank you so much, Vijay. And as I put up my deck out here as well, it was so inspiring listening to all that Madhuri had to say. And there were so many learnings, analogies, everything put out here. And of course, it's a very humbling moment presenting to a room full of so many coaches who've done this for many, many years. However, I think I will try to keep it a little simple from my end, and how we as an organization have taken up the spirit, the culture of coaching across many years now. And I think the thing that I really want to relate is that we were not like this earlier, but we got into this journey, and the transformation that it has brought across to us intrinsically in who we are and how we show up is so revealing that it's a moment for us to feel that why didn't we do it earlier? We wish that, I mean, this is a journey that we wish to share with everybody, because it really goes to the power of how coaching and coaches can really transform any organization. So with that, like Vijay said, I've been in Microsoft for about 2 decades right now. And for everybody here who've seen Microsoft across years, I think we came in from the era of personal computing. So people would have been most familiar with, say, Windows and Office at a point of time. And then we transitioned into the server product category. And I'm kind of wanting to give a little bit about the way the business has transformed and the relevance of coaching, so that we are able to kind of understand as to why it became such a pivotal thing for us to deal with coaching. Post that, and this was the time when mission critical applications and everything was becoming the norm outside, and Microsoft started having a very large role to play in there. Then we moved across into the solution transformation space, because the overall journey was towards seeing as to how customers are looking at transforming for their customers. So the entire way that we were articulating our solution stories for our customers and, say, end consumers like you and I became very critical and important. And finally, in the last, say, 5 years plus, we embarked on this journey of the cloud first and mobile first world. And over this entire period, the things which happened was that it was not just internal for us. The drivers externally were also changing. So who we were, say 20 years back, 10 years back, 15 years back, could not be the same as to who we were at this juncture. So things like how the decisions of technology purchase changed. People wanted something which was really simple. The consumerization of IT meant that people who were business leaders in the organization started making decisions. The entire solution landscape changed and the decision making changed. So when we came across from, say, the first era of personal computing and then going across to how the servers, etc., were going, we realized that we were a set of people doing a set of things in a world which was meant for them. But the world externally changed, which meant our customers were looking at things and wanting to interact with us in ways that were very different. And this is actually a pivotal picture for us, wherein our leadership change happened. And all of you would have kind of seen it from the external world, seen as to how Satya took over the realm of our leadership, and then how he changed things inside, outside, and how we kind of took across a very different journey in every aspect of what was happening, right from product engineering, right from the way we were kind of integrating our products into different ways that we were really bringing across a homogeneous things, breaking across silos, bringing across that entire cultural change. So this was critically important. A small peek into the way we kind of put across our own selves into into the hands of our customers. So customer centricity was the mantra that we were taking across through various things of digital transformation, such as employees, customers, operations, products, through various solution areas. This is just to set the background as to how our entire external environment, our customers, and everybody changed. Now, this really demanded a change in the culture for us. And it was at that juncture when Satya had taken over that we realized that we had to create a culture which was dramatically different. And I think all of you here would have kind of gone through or been very intimately involved with the book of Carol Dweck, The Growth Mindset. And that became our Bible, because we realized that we had to change not the talent, but how our talent imbibed this culture for doing what was future. So, from taking a fixed mindset across to a growth mindset, that was the culture that we embarked in our entire coaching journey. And if you look at it, the pillars and the pivots that we put across in this entire period of the transformation was that, of course, we hired a lot of talent externally, but we kind of put in the overall philosophy that we had to change our talent also dramatically. We didn't change the people, but we changed how the people were looking at the world outside. So it was all to do with the mindset, and it was intrinsic things like in an always learning mode. Madhuri talked about it earlier. So it was the spirit of a continuous learning. What you knew in the past absolutely didn't define of your success for the future. Being really open to ideas, actively seeking, actively challenging, actively asking for feedback in a meaningful way, being ready to take risks. We actually in Microsoft put across something in one of the divisions called a mistake wall. So we really congratulated people even if they took large risks and they failed, because they put their mistakes up there, from whom that became the shoulders of the giants from whom others kind of learned a lot more. And finally, we were all ready to embrace challenge. We were not willing to be in that comfort zone of earlier. And we were really willing to challenge people, challenge processes, challenge things, and get going ahead. This was the mantra that we took of the growth mindset. And we put managers as the pivot of all the changes. So we took a simple philosophy. We said model, coach. These were actually there in the beginning, and we added care later. So we said, how can managers be models? By showing up and leading the way. How can they create the culture of coaching? And how can they do it in a manner that the employees feel that there is a lot of care which is being inbuilt into the system? And I must say that this entire coaching culture, when we brought it across, it was not led by HR. It was not led by our learning divisions. It was led by business. We were actually leading the way in terms of saying that why a shift and a change in the coaching culture will really drive growth in the most inclusive and the most meaningful way. And we defined this along 3 leadership principles. So what should the coaches / our managers of the future be doing? They should create clarity, generate energy, and deliver success. So this really became the mantra of how we were actually nurturing our managers and coaches for the future to be. I must also say that at this point, Microsoft earlier had a very different culture. We were looking at ensuring that product goals, revenue goals, our operational targets, etc., and everything, the way we kind of inspected them, the way we kind of drew growth from them, they were very different. They were, I must say, a lot of review led. The minute we took across this coaching hat, it became so much more liberating, to say the least. So there were a lot of conversations on the table. There was to and fro learning from both sides, whether it was any kind of a discussion to brainstorm or any kind of a discussion to see how we are faring. It wasn't anymore like a review in which there is an individual getting reviewed or a manager kind of tasking with asking questions only. It was the way the entire overall culture evolved was very different. Alongside this, we also said that we have to hone up everybody's technical intensity. We called it the Technical Skills Initiative, which we do internally and externally. We talked about this earlier as well, that showing the curiosity, developing deeper technical skills, showing your achievements, and doing this together with our customers was a very, very intrinsic thing. And again, these are things that people did not have earlier. So the managers coached their employees, their teams, and the larger teams. Why? The why of the coaching was so important and not just the what. So this became a way that we really showed up very differently. A small set of things here. When we were taking this up, we actually got in Michael Bunge. A lot of you might have been familiar with his coaching styles and what he did. And for a lot of people, we come from a sales and marketing organization. It's to do with problem solving here and now. Jump into giving an advice. Try to kind of solve for every question with the best possible option that is known to me at this point of time. So the entire overall coaching stream was towards being more coach-like. So how can you be lazy, not jumping into the question, being a lot more curious, being very often, and coaching at the moment? So these were philosophies that we literally tried to bring across to every manager to ensure that we are pervasively bringing in a coach-like culture in the organization. Whether you're being a coach for a session, but are you being a coach as a person itself? So that was the philosophy that we brought in. And I must say that this brought in a lot of culture transformation for everything that we were doing. And this is a story that when I share it with customers, they also feel that at various points of juncture, they've also gone through this. And these are some of the nuggets that I've kind of learned on the way. The centricity from the digital transformation that I talked about, the first pillar is people centricity. So when you're talking about digital transformation, are you really thinking of transformation of your people? How invested are we in our people and the people centricity towards ensuring that coaching really brings the best out of them? And the minute we kind of invested disproportionate amounts of time in the coaching culture, I think the results just showed up for themselves. We also took this and extended this in terms of being coaches for our customers and partners, because I guess all of us in this era of the internet and information being at the fingertips of every individual whom we are meeting and talking to, information is there. So how could we, when we meet our customers and partners, wear the challenger mindset, wear that coaching trusted advisor cap, to really have that conversation with customers, which makes them sit on their seat and have that aha moment. Think that, yes, maybe, yes, this could be something which could really be fruitful for the future. Drawing inspiration outside in. Instead of telling, we got into a lot of that listening mode. And that part about thinking about the smallest executable step, what will I do for the next 2 weeks? Which is something which is intrinsic for a coaching culture as well. What will I do for a measurable period of time? Show success or learn from something which has happened, then take the next one. The next one I feel very passionate about is placing many more bets and trying many more ideas. At a point of time, Satya also made this comment that everybody bets on a lot of ideas. Some really make it and some don't. But it's the law of averages and the one which make it really count. And I think the last part is who people kind of became as a way of taking up this entire journey. It was driving creativity and innovation at all levels of the organization. So it was not really leaders who were leading the charter of coming out with the best, big, bold business goals, but we became a lot more inclusive. We created avenues for bringing in entrepreneurial ideas. We had Shark Tank created at various points of time. Come out with your idea, ask for what you want to do. If you want investments, if you want ways to kind of change things which are happening, come and ask for it. And we had coaches who were working with them actually to ensure that they refined their ideas themselves. So the coaching became a phenomenon in various parts of the business, and also to kind of think about ideas, not just about how we take our business to the customers, but also in a way, What are we doing, even things differently for India? How are we serving our community? So these were things which came out because creativity innovation started happening at many, many levels. I just want to kind of end up with my coaching journey as well. So, Microsoft had a program called Super Coach Training, which kind of came across about a couple of years back. And the idea was to have 100 super coaches in Microsoft worldwide who, in turn, will take the baton of becoming coaches for people internally and ensure that we become the go-to person for anybody who's kind of kickstarting, getting into any of the coaching arenas, etc. And this was, like all of you know, this was an intensive coaching training which happened for those 60 hours. Then we did all the things about peer mentoring. We went across for the 100 hours of coaching, of course, on a pro bono basis, internally and externally as well. So I, for example, started doing a lot of coaching across the organization, different parts of Microsoft. And I also kind of volunteered for a lot of coaching, which, say, people came across to me for, say, mentoring sessions, coaching sessions, for women forums, for people who are in the entrepreneurship area. So I started doing a lot of these things. A high point was also meeting a lot of coaches, really accomplished people like y'all, when I went for the ICF conference at Prague. And finally, I took up the ACC ICF certification. I would say that when I started the entire journey, it was a lot. But I think listening, seeing people, and what it was doing to me internally and intrinsically, I started relaying this to a lot of people. And I myself got a lot more curious in terms of how it was possibly helping me solve the biggest and the most difficult kinds of conversation, kinds of business problems, etc. So, with that, I would just say my learnings out of this entire journey, creating connections, I guess these are deeper now what they were earlier. The other part is about the coaching, the time that I spent, it became a zone of mindfulness. And when I was entering into any of the coaching conversations, I used to ensure that at least 5-10 minutes before that, I would not kind of check my mails. I would not have a conversation on a phone or something with anybody which is transactional, because I wanted my mind to be there at the present. The other part was being genuinely interested in others, building up on what I'm hearing from them. I also did a lot of reverse coaching discussions across with people who are the millennial and who are just kind of entering the work stream. It brought in a lot of spontaneity, because I think that's the best thing, which we learn, that not to come across with a frame, with a box when you're entering the coaching conversation. And the spontaneity flowed into the way I was dealing with things in the business, with people, with my teams, everything. And finally, just becoming a better human being. So I would say, I mean, that's the overall journey. And putting an analogy, I think, the value to the organization is immense. It's absolutely grown from a curiosity to good enough to how it really adds value towards growth. And finally, for all coaches within corporates, also as individuals, I think the leadership element and the impact and the influence that you're able to cultivate across in the organization is immense. So that's it. With that, back to you, Vijay.
I don't know. I don't know what to. How do I even sort of summarize this? Or I'm not even going to try. You can just see all those emojis flowing in. So you I think between you and Madhuri, the 135 people in the room here are all rooting for you. And it's not a in the moment thing. I think the groundedness, the journey, I think the reality, the practical dimension, all of that you brought has left everyone just feeling one thing: inspired to say this is possible. We often talk about how, let's say in India, we've scratched the surface, and there's a lot more that needs to be done. Awareness needs to be created. I think we need role models, and we need stories like this. So thank you both so much for that. The Q&A box is flooded, so I am now going to have a really difficult job, but I shall still try. So first up, folks who put in questions, if we can't get to all of them, Please accept my apologies. We'll find some way to get answers for this. But let me go with a few questions. So let's start with this one, right? We've heard all the good parts. Puneet is asking, when we look back at a fabulous transformation journey, it all looks beautiful and inspiring. But what were some of the toughest challenges and failures or learnings from them?
I can take a stab at it.
Yeah.
So I would say there has to be a patience and tolerance for failure. When you ask somebody, when you're changing the culture towards becoming a coach, managers are still in this dilemma as to how to manage business and how to ensure that coaching drives business. It goes hand in hand. Having said that, nobody who's kind of taking this journey can take it the first go. Being tolerant, working the entire journey along with them, talking the talk, walking the walk with them is very critically important. Also, showing role models who's kind of doing it well. So, those in my mind would be the critical things. The largest thing that I would ask people to refrain from is that if you've taken 2 steps and if you see any result or any parameter which is getting impacted in an adverse way, do not take that as a signal. Every change takes a long amount of time to settle, and coaching is a culture. It really will take longer.
Very well said, Irina. I think the only 2 things I would add is one is as a coach, when we are coaching, whether we are a manager, leader, or a coach, it's important to share our own learnings. Most of the times I share my own failures because as much as it's a cliched line of failures are stepping stones to success, it is true. If we have not failed, you are not really succeeding. So one is share your experiences or share other experiences so that, like Irina said, when you hit one failure on the way, that shouldn't really stop you from going ahead as well. And certain things are challenging. Let's accept that. I think it's important to accept that and probably set reasonable timelines. I think one thing resonated a lot with Irina also said earlier is we all have bias to action. I mean, thanks to our kind of roles and jobs we do, we want immediate gratification, immediate results, and everything. And unfortunately, we go to a coach or we go to certain things because those are hard for us. And that is why we went to a coach as well. So I think it's important to be vulnerable, share about your failure journeys, and set realistic expectations. Sometimes it's okay to like take a 3 month, 6 month, 1 year approach, but measure your success by a few milestones in between as well.
Beautifully said. Yeah, both of you. I think it's just important to have that balance and a more sustainable approach, I would say. There's another one which has come from Murli. Very practical question. How do you preserve confidentiality of discussions in an internal coaching environment? That must be a tough one, right? Wearing different hats.
Yeah, I think firstly, confidentiality and trust are very related because people will not come to us for coaching if they don't trust. I know some people do not approach a few coaches because they are worried about it, because they are sharing some of their deepest fears, their worries as well. So one is trust, because if we don't keep it confidential, they don't come to us. But how do you keep it confidential? Not only me, many others at Google also do this as well. One is, if it is certain things which really needs to be informed to like an HR of an organization because it impacts something or the organization, and that times we say like, look, at least we will need to share this, let's say with the people, with our HR department. But if there are certain things, I personally believe in confidentiality because that's why people come back to me again and again as well. So unless it is something really deterring the organization or an individual, I believe in like the confidentiality of those conversations because they help them also be more vulnerable as well.
No, absolutely. And just to add, one thing will be that people look at the exposure of their vulnerability because of the trust. And if there's a need, say, because of the conversation developmental plan or something which has to be evolved, take the permission and show the light as to why you are invested in possibly sharing it with anybody outside the coachee, to say that if this were done, could this be helpful? and then share it. But otherwise, I mean, keeping the confidentiality will be really crucial.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes coaches also get into a spot with sponsors. So that's a
Yeah, true.
story for a different time, but I think the principles are the same. There's one more, okay, this is kind of, okay. So this one, I don't know whether you want to take, I don't know whether there is an answer or you want to give your perspective. Gaurang is asking, is in-house coach better for organization or external?
We do both. So we do both because in-house coaches have a perspective which is needed basis the area of development that the coachee is asking for. But if you're looking at things which are towards creating leadership with impact and influence on certain sets of things, it's at times better to have an external coach because they will be able to identify your blind spots with a neutral, white canvas view. So that helps. So we do both.
Plus one to that, I think it's very situation dependent and both have their own merits, having an internal and external coach. In fact, I suggest I coach a lot of managers and individual contributors in my organization. Based on the situation, sometimes I assess both. And I'll give you an example. Let's say if somebody is saying, how do I navigate the complexity and the matrix of, let's say, an organizations between engineering, sales, and operations? You need an internal coach for it, right? Because they know how things work and they'll help you understand for certain things. But let's say if in a meeting you really want to, when somebody gives you a harsh feedback, how do you ensure that you manage your emotions? Such things, I think even an external coach can help much better way, because they can listen in a more vulnerable way and give them more objective and specifically, like Irina said, blind spots as well. So I think both have their own value and we need to encourage people to leverage both.
Sure. There's one more, which is okay. This thing just scrolls too fast, but I am learning and I will cope with it. Okay. So I think there was one which was an interesting one about. I think that was for Irina, and I think Madhuri can also take this. It is about saying why did we start? Yeah, Irina, what was the thinking behind having business lead the coaching engine?
Yeah. So the idea was that it has to be front, right, and center of who we are taking across as an organization and the belief that all leaders are all in. So if you lead it with just say an HR or a learning, it becomes at points of time peripheral. So the idea was that have leaders lead it from the center so that everybody knows that I have to do it, because if I get into a coaching culture environment, it'll be good for my business, for my tech team, for the development, for everybody. So it was basically having leaders lead the way and show the walk.
So, Madhuri, I have a related question for you, and I think you can really answer this. Sanyog is asking, how do senior management, how does senior management evangelize coaching in the company?
Yeah, no, very good question. Actually, sometimes people come to me and say, I have these business priorities. I also have to coach the people, and then I have to support the well-being of the people, and I have to like ensure that I build an inclusive culture and ensure we have a diverse team. What do I prioritize? My answer to them is it's never an or. If you are a manager, you're responsible for everything. You're responsible for your business and customers. You're responsible for your people. When you're responsible for your people, you're taking responsibility of their coaching. You're taking responsibility of building inclusive culture. You're taking responsibility of building diverse teams. And that's why I think it's important to bring all of that together for managers and ensure that they are really focused in helping them through all of these conversations as well.
Yeah. So there's one more on that. I think a question about how do you define managers? And I think the larger question here is, what's the level at which we can start coaching? Because let's be honest, right? I mean, organizations with huge number of employees, and this is a process that takes investment in many senses of the word, right? Whether it's time, commitment, mindset, money. Is there a starting point? And this is for both of you.
Firstly, I'll say, and this is for all the coaches, including me, personally, selfishly, also, I do coaching because coaching is a learning for me. When I coach some people, actually after the coaching conversations, I don't know about the coachee, but I am walking away with some amazing insights, which is why I really think if every individual has to be a coach. But I do agree that for that you do need to build some expertise and some experience. But that doesn't mean, and this is my personal POV, my personal POV is that that doesn't mean you have to become a manager to become a coach. For that matter, I really hold all my senior ICs accountable and say, how many people have you mentored? How many people have you coached? Like I said, lifting others in Google is an important thing. And I also hold that bar for promotions as well. Like if you tell me how many people you've mentored, how many people you've coached, it's an important point. So I wouldn't put starting point as a manager, but I do think beyond a certain things. And don't think of coaching as only like certain leadership attributes. You can coach them on, let's say, how to really pitch to a customer. You can really coach them on how to win a great deal for the sales as well. So there are many aspects of it. And millennials, these days they're really smart. I think they're coming with, so I wouldn't hold that bar at an age or at a level. I think if somebody has a skill to offer, absolutely make everybody else, like, share it and make everybody else as good as you.
Yeah, learning is social, right? Irina?
Plus one to that, and I would say that, I mean, frankly, there is no bar at all. It's managers in at the least, basically. But having said that, every IC, I mean, you will be a coach to, say, a person who's joining the company new. You could be a coach to anybody who's kind of in the external world as a part of the social causes or outreach that you're kind of doing across to. You could be coach to your customers and partners also. Your partners, when you're working along with them, you could be coaches with them. So everybody, we kind of want people to understand that coaching is a way of who you are, and coach is not, say, a profile or, say, a designation that you have to kind of reach there. So it's something that you have to develop as a personality.
Wow, that was like, totally the wrap up, and I'm walking away with so many nuggets here. I'm definitely going to go back, listen to the recording, and I'm requesting everyone here to do that. Time always, is a spoil sport. Okay, unfortunately, but thank you to both you wonderful leaders here today for giving an hour, 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, engaging in this conversation. But I think you all had a great time too. I can just see that. I mean, your whole self has come into this, and I think if I may say, we need more coaching role models like all of you. And if I may borrow from Madhuri, if I can see this room, right, we're all sitting in different parts of the world here. I think collectively, everyone is feeling lifted up. Participants, if you agree, please give like a thumbs up or something. And with that, we will bring this wonderful session to a close. And more power to both of you. That's all I can say and end with.
Thank you so much, Vijay, for inviting us. I just want to end with a note of gratitude and one request. My note of gratitude to all the 125 people who attended and all the ICF coaches. Know that you're helping millions of people around in the world. And like I tell, one moment is enough for somebody to change their life and career. So those moments you are creating, so huge gratitude. And my request, and so many of you mentioned women leaders, women leaders, women leaders. As coaches, we coach everybody, but when you see underrepresented groups and marginalized groups, please go that extra step to make sure they feel confident. We need more of the underrepresented groups across all organizations, all industries. That's when, as a country and as a world, we'll be very successful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm presently having goosebumps, but yeah. See you, everyone. See you on the other side, 10 a.m. There are two amazing sessions happening. Don't miss them. And we've got a rocking day 3 ahead of us. And what a start it's been. Thank you. Good day.